thing. And the way we can understand this is that we have here a pot of boiling water. And what we've done is we've put the pot on the burner. The temperature keeps increasing. And as the temperature increases in the water, the hydrogen and oxygen molecules, they begin to bump into each other very quickly. And it creates that effect of boiling. So as the temperature increases, the activity, the chaos increases on the molecular level. Now, if we let that water cool down, and then it just becomes plain water, sada pani. And then we look and we see that there's not so much disturbance on the surface of the water. It looks a little bit more orderly. If we reduce the temperature even more, then eventually it becomes baraf. It becomes ice. And ice looks very orderly, a very nice crystalline structure. It looks very coherent, very orderly. So according to physics, decreasing temperature, which is the same as decreasing activity, it results in increasing orderliness. What we do twice a day during Maharishi's Transcendental Meditation is that we decrease the mental activity. We decrease the mental temperature, so to speak. And what that does is it increases orderliness in our life. And scientists tell us very clearly that the mind and the body are like a hand and a glove. If the hand moves in one direction, automatically the glove follows. During Maharishi's Transcendental Meditation technique, as mental activity settles down, automatically that causes the physical activity in the body also to settle down, and it results in a very profound state of rest in the nervous system. And this deep rest in the nervous system, it strengthens the immune system. And what that means is then we are better to resist illness, healthier as human beings. Now, for our physics lesson, we want to verify this through another mechanism. So now we're going to look at something called the Meissner Effect. Bhuvnesh Ji, visible?
Yes, yes. It is visible.
Okay, great. Dr. Meissner was a physicist in the 1930s. And what he found is that when physical systems, it could be a human nervous system, it could be a car, it could be a room, when an enclosed system becomes more orderly, then it begins to exhibit qualities which are not available when it is disorderly. And what he did is he did an experiment where he took a bar of metal. So here in red is a bar of metal, and here in green is the same bar of metal. The only difference is their internal temperature, which we know from before is a manifestation of how orderly they are inside. There is a temperature which physicists refer to as absolute zero. Absolute zero is very, very cold. It's minus 273 degrees centigrade. Bahut thanda. You wouldn't want to go outside at that time. It is not possible to get to absolute zero, but you can get very close to it. In a scientific laboratory, they can bring an object within a few degrees of absolute zero. And when that object, in this case a bar of metal, when that object gets near absolute zero, then it begins to exhibit what we would call supernormal powers, like siddhis, things that are not available at normal room temperature. So what Dr. Meissner did is, first he took this bar of metal in red at normal room temperature. Now, at normal room temperature, a bar of metal, it looks very solid. It looks very concrete. But in reality, on the molecular level, there is a lot of disturbance. There's a lot of internal chaos. And then he took a magnet. So in blue, here in the middle is a magnet, the North Pole and the South Pole of the magnet. And he brought the magnet near to this bar of metal. And what happened, because there was so much chaos inside the bar of metal, very easily the magnetic influence is able to go inside, to permeate into the bar of metal. And the bar of metal automatically gets attracted to the magnet. It loses its internal integrity and it gets attracted to the magnet. And then what Dr. Meissner did, he took the same bar of metal and he made it very cold, very close to absolute zero. And when you get, as I mentioned, when you get near absolute zero, the internal functioning of that bar of metal becomes very orderly, very coherent. Coherent is another word for orderly. And then he brought the magnet near to that bar of metal. And as you can see, the magnetic influences were not able to go inside the bar of metal. They had to go around it. They were not able to permeate inside. So what had happened is that the bar of metal had become so orderly that no negative outside influences could penetrate into it. Nothing could disturb its internal orderliness. And just before Professor Sharma was telling me of a slok from Maharishi Patanjali. Would you mention that, Bhuvanesh?
Yes. Ahimsa pratisthayam tat sannidho vairtyaga. Means in the vicinity of non-violence, the enmity is gone. So
Beautiful.
when there is orderliness inside, then outside disorderly cannot penetrate. Yes, you can continue.
Beautiful.
Ahimsa pratisthayam tat sannidho vairtyaga.
So we see from both Vedic science, from what Maharishi Patanjali said in his Yoga Sutras, and we see from modern science that it is possible to create a state of invincibility inside so that negative influences from the outside are not able to penetrate. So this is the reason that we want to make sure in terms of our health that we're practicing our TM very regularly, no excuses, twice a day, every day. So now that we've covered two very important reasons why we want to meditate regularly, now I wanted to go over a few of the important points about correct practice of Maharishi's Transcendental Meditation technique. The first thing is that the way we begin TM is we sit comfortably. We always practice Transcendental Meditation sitting, not lying down, but sitting comfortably. And comfortable is different for different people. Someone may say that they're comfortable sitting on a chair or sitting on a couch. Someone else may say they're comfortable sitting on the bed with a pillow against the wall for back support. Someone else may say they're comfortable sitting on the ground. But the main thing is that we are sitting comfortably. One thing is that if we're meditating at home, we can tell our family, oh, I'm going to do my meditation now, please don't disturb me. Maybe they can switch the television off for the 15 minutes while we're meditating. If you have a mobile phone, definitely put your phone on silent. The world can get along without you for 15 minutes. You can, when you're done meditating, you can see who's called you and return those calls. If you have young children or pets at home, if it's possible to meditate in a room separate from them, that would be nice. That way a young child won't start playing with your hair. If you've got a dog, the dog won't start pulling at your trousers like that. We can have different experiences during Maharishi's meditation at different times due to different conditions of the body. So the main principle is that due to different conditions of the body, our experiences during TM can differ. As the mind becomes very settled, physically, the body also becomes very settled, deeply relaxed. Whenever the body becomes deeply relaxed, automatically it begins to repair itself. It begins to get rid of abnormalities. That's why when you're not feeling well, the doctor will always say, take rest, because rest allows the body to get rid of abnormalities. Due to this deep rest during TM, what happens is the tensions and the stresses, the anxieties that we accumulate during the day, they get released. Now, we generally think of stress as something mental. Workloads, examinations, health issues, financial issues, worrying about COVID, all of these things that we have to deal with every day. But the container for this mental pressure, for this parishani, for this anxiety, the container for that pressure is the body. That mental stress, it gets stored in the way the brain functions. It gets stored in the way the heart functions. It gets stored in our cholesterol levels, in our blood pressure. It gets stored in our blood chemistry. It gets stored in the muscles in our body. So even though stress appears to be something mental, it's really very physical. And when stress gets released, it creates a physical activity. Something actually happens in the nervous system when stress gets released. And to explain this, I like to use an example. We have a rubber band and we're stretching the rubber band. When we stretch the rubber band, what we're doing is we're putting tension. We're putting stress in the rubber band. When we let the rubber band relax, two things happen. One thing is that the stress gets released. The other thing that happens is that the rubber band returns to its normal shape. The same thing happens in the body. When the body gains deep rest, and due to that deep rest, some stress, some tension gets released, that release of stress is accompanied by an increase in the physical activity in the body. And again, because the mind and the body are so closely connected, this increase in physical activity due to stress release will automatically create a corresponding increase in mental activity. The main point in Maharishi's meditation, koshish nahin, no trying, no forcing, no control, no effort. We don't concentrate on the mantra. We don't try to resist thoughts. We don't try to resist noise. The main point about Maharishi's meditation, masum, innocent. We do the technique very innocently, and we will always end up with the best results. Maharishi advises us when we sit to meditate, no expectations, no anticipation of any particular result. We're just doing it very easily. We are not analyzing what's going on. Maharishi's meditation is not an intellectual process. Maharishi reminds us that the practical value of his transcendental meditation is not what happens during those 10 to 20 minutes that we're practicing TM. The value of TM is that it is a preparation for activity. When we feel more fresh, when the mind is more alert, more orderly, more coherent, then our whole day goes smoother. We're more effective at everything we do. We feel happier inside. We accomplish things more easily. So that's the real purpose of Maharishi's Transcendental Meditation. It's a preparation for activity. I wanted to play for you a 2-minute video of what happens in the brain every time we practice Transcendental Meditation. The brain has 2 hemispheres, do, ada, 2 halves, a left and a right. The left hemisphere is mainly concerned with logic, reasoning, mathematical abilities. The right hemisphere is mainly concerned with creativity, moral reasoning, artistic abilities. Maharishi says that it's like the artist and the scientist in each person. In a normal person, there is a certain level of synchrony, a certain level of compatibility between the left and the right hemisphere. Out of the possibility of working together perfectly, 100% of their potential, they're only working together 30 to 40% of their potential. Now, there is a way to measure this, and it's called EEG. EEG stands for electrical encephalographic. Some of us, kabi, we go to the doctor and we get what is called a cardiogram, an EKG done. The students probably don't get this done yet, but your parents do. And our faculty certainly do from time to time. And what an EKG is, a cardiogram is, the doctor will put some electrodes, these little suction cups that are attached to a wire, and they put them on the chest area. And then these wires are attached to a computer which is able to monitor the electrical impulses of the heart. And then it comes out like a graph, some lines like this or like this or like that. And by looking at the graph, the doctor can know what's going on in that person's heart. The same thing can be done for the brain. And again, that's called an EEG. And what they do is the scientist will put some electrodes, these little suction cups attached to wires, on your head, the front and the back of your head. And then these wires are connected to a computer which is able to pick up the electrical impulses of the brain. And then it shows how well the 2 hemispheres of the brain are working together. So with that as a background, I'm going to play this very short video, which I think you'll find enjoyable, and it will inspire you to be very regular with your meditation.
So here we have an example of experience of Maharishi's Transcendental Meditation program. I'm going to stop the screen for a moment here. You can see on the top, we have the blinking cursor. Shows you the left front EEG. The right front EEG. And the bottom line shows you the oscillation from more to less of EEG coherence between the left and right frontal alpha EEG. You can see that the red line is at 0.9, where maximum is 1 or 100%. And so the scale goes from 0 to 100%. And we're going to continue now to see what happens when the person starts meditation. They're not meditating, and then they'll start in just a moment. Notice when they started meditation, it took them about less than half a second. Notice the high amplitude of local coherence in the front, on the left and the right-hand side. And the similarity in the signals, just the waveforms look pretty similar. And the similarity is borne out by careful calculation of the EEG coherence. And let's just pause here. So we pause. You can see that right at the start of TM, coherence maximized and stayed most of the time above 90% or 0.9, which is extraordinary because the normal range of coherence is somewhere between 30 and 40% for an individual. This individual has very good brain coherence, even when they're not meditating, which is averaging around 60%. And when they start meditating within less than a second, they go to that very high level.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. And Bhuvneshji, the audio on that came out okay?
Yes, it was fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
For me, it was fine, but let us see if it is not fine with anyone else. They can ask, they can discuss afterwards, after you have finished. Yes. Already some questions are popping up, so we'll see to it. Yes.
Okay, great. The reason I wanted to show that is that what happens during TM is something very concrete. The students who are going to the Maharishi Vidya Mandirs have a great competitive advantage over students at any other school in the world. Because twice a day, our students have this technology of consciousness, which allows the brain to function in a more orderly manner. And when the brain functions in a more orderly manner, memory becomes better, creativity becomes better, intelligence increases, the ability to see things in a very holistic vision increases. And also this orderliness in the brain, it translates into orderliness in the body. So all of us at the Maharishi Vidya Mandirs, our students, our dear faculty and staff, you are all very, very lucky to have this technology, which is scientifically verified to allow you to grow to your full potential. I wanted to answer a few questions that we've received from some of our faculty and staff and students around the country. So I'm going to go through some of them. The first question is from Miss Parabi, and she's in Guwahati. Swagatam. And Miss Parabi said, how to maximize the benefits of transcendental meditation? Are some efforts required for this? Actually, effort is completely opposed to the practice of Maharishi's Transcendental Meditation. If we make effort during TM, it will end up creating some heaviness, some pressure in the head. So again, during TM, we just do the technique innocently, easily, not forcefully. And if we do it easily, then that will maximize the benefits. And Now we have a question from Miss Ruchi from MVM in Prayagraj, Nainital, I think. How does TM help to experience 7 states of consciousness? This is a beautiful question, because the real purpose of transcendental meditation is not just to rest or get rid of stress, it's to develop higher states of consciousness. It's like Maharishi likes to use the analogy of dyeing a piece of cloth. If you have a white cloth and a tub of pila dye, and you want to make the white cloth yellow, it's very simple. You take the cloth, you put it in the dye, you let it stay there for a while, and then you bring it back to the sun. When we bring the cloth back to the sun, much of the color, much of that yellow color, it starts to fade away. So again, we take the cloth and back in the dye, and then again back in the sun. The same process happens, but it's a little bit brighter yellow the second time than it was the first time. Many times in the dye, in the sun, in the dye, in the sun, eventually a time will come where the cloth is perfectly yellow colored. The cloth has become the exact same color as the yellow dye. It never fades away. That is exactly what happens between TM and activity, diving in and coming out, diving in and coming out. And through this continuous process of diving in and coming out, eventually that pure consciousness, that samadhi, it gets stabilized. And then 24 hours a day, we are enjoying that inner bliss. 24 hours a day, we are enjoying a state of tremendous wakefulness and alertness, of perfect inner silence, of infinite dynamism and energy. So that's what happens through the regular practice of TM. It very naturally develops that state, those 7 states of consciousness, culminating in what Maharishi calls unity consciousness, where we enjoy that inner bliss inside, and everywhere outside we see bliss as well. So now I wanted to answer a question from Miss Madhuri from MVM Hyderabad. And Miss Madhuri said, due to uncertainties of professional life, we are often unable to practice TM on a particular time. Is there any evidence which shows the effects of transcendental meditation vary when practiced at different times on different days? Madhuri Ji, I do not know of any scientific research that shows that, but the main point is that we practice TM twice a day. And our general desire is to do it sometime in the morning before breakfast and sometime in the evening before dinner. It's better not to meditate on a heavy stomach. That's why we say better to meditate in the morning sometime before breakfast. And when I say before breakfast, it could be right before breakfast or it could be an hour before breakfast, but better before the food. And then again, sometime in the evening before dinner. Again, it could be just before dinner, or it could be for many of the ladies, you have to take care of family preparations for their food. So maybe you can meditate earlier at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock before you have to start your dinner preparations. So our ideal is to try and do it at about the same time each day. Doesn't have to be at the exact same time, but we want to try and make it part of our daily routine. It's like brushing our teeth. We brush our teeth sometime in the morning, and then maybe again we brush our teeth again before we go to bed. So that's how we want to treat TM. We want to do it as regularly as possible, but as you say, circumstances can come up, kabi, which maybe we have a meeting or a conference call which went late. And on that day, instead of meditating at our normal time, maybe we're meditating a little bit earlier. So we can be a little bit flexible according to circumstances, but our desire is to try and meditate as regularly as we can. Sometime in the morning before breakfast, sometime in the evening before dinner. Here's a question from Renju Chandrasekhar at MVM Hyderabad. How can social harmony be achieved by transcendental meditation? This is a beautiful question, and this is the whole purpose of Maharishi's knowledge. If you look at a green forest, what is a green forest? It's a collection of many green trees. That's it. When you think of a harmonious society, it is just a collection of many harmonious individuals. And harmony is created inside, not outside. A person who is harmonious inside, a person who is peaceful, who is happy inside, spontaneously they radiate harmony, peacefulness, happiness everywhere around them. We all know people who we enjoy being around. For me, it's very much that way being around our dear chairman. Whenever you're around our dear chairman, you feel happy because he has so much inner peace that when you're around him, you also experience that. So the way to create a peaceful society is by having many, many people learn Maharishi's meditation and create that inner peace, that inner harmony, which naturally radiates outside. So you would be doing all of your friends and your family and your acquaintances a great favor to encourage them to learn Maharishi's Transcendental Meditation so that we can more rapidly create more social harmony. A beautiful question. Thank you very much. Here's a question from Mr. Satpati from MVM Bhuvaneshwar. How can I self-check whether I'm doing meditation rightly or not? There are two criteria that we are practicing TM correctly. First, that it was easy to meditate. And secondly, that immediately after we were done meditating, we feel some relaxation, some good feeling, some restfulness in the mind or body. That indicates that we're practicing TM correctly. Now, there is also a very clear indicator that we are practicing TM incorrectly. If you are ever meditating and you begin to experience some heaviness, some pressure, some tension in the head, then what that would indicate is that you are forcing the mantra. You are making some effort. And effort is opposed to the correct practice of Maharishi's meditation. And if anyone ever has the experience of feeling some heaviness or pressure during TM, immediately stop thinking the mantra. The only reason pressure will come is if we force the mantra. And naturally, if you stop the mantra, within 15, 20 seconds, that pressure will go away. And then when the pressure is gone, again come back to the mantra, but this time easily, comfortably. So those are the guidelines for knowing that we're practicing TM correctly. And then if you have more questions about that, at all of our MVMs around the country, all of our TM teachers have been trained to check your meditation. They can check your meditation to make sure that everything is going smoothly. So let's see. Now we have a question from Yogita Pandey, a 10th standard student from MVM. In present scenario, when students are at home, how does TM help to reduce anxiety, depression, and stress? Yogita Ji, this is a very practical question. And I'm very happy that you brought this up, because everyone in the world today is experiencing a very big increase in stress and tension and depression. We're not able to get together with our friends. We're not able to go out and play and to do things that we like to do. So naturally, all of us feel very stifled inside. We feel less contented inside. What TM does is twice a day, it allows our mind to settle down, to go from those worries and anxieties, that chaotic surface tension of life. It allows our mind to settle down and to become peaceful and happy. It allows our mind to go from problems to that ultimate solution, which is inner silence. So doing your TM twice a day, Yogita Ji, will automatically help to negate the effects of this present scenario and allow us to function in a more normal way. I hope that answer makes you feel a little better. Make sure that you're doing your meditation very regularly. Here we have a question from Miss Arushni from the Maharishi School of Educational Excellence in Chennai. Can children below 10 years of age meditate? If not, why? So I'm continually learning Hindi words, and Roshni is a word that I learned just a few days ago. Roshni means brightness. So Roshni Ji must be very bright inside. And you asked a very bright question. Yes, children can learn TM from the age of around 6 years old. From the ages of 6 to 10, they receive a different technique than the rest of us have learned. It is called a walking word of wisdom. They get a mantra, but it's called a word of wisdom. And they're told a little story, something that they can appreciate, how this word of wisdom is very private, and it will help them in their studies. It will help them to be to run faster and to get along with their friends better. And they're told many things that a child can appreciate. They practice it for a few minutes in the morning before school, and a few minutes in the evening, maybe when they're getting ready for their play. And they practice it with their eyes open. So it's a different technique than those who are viewing now, who have learned TM. We practice it sitting, eyes closed. And it's a very nice thing for young children. They find that they become less hyperactive. They become a little bit more focused. They feel better inside. So yes, between the ages of 6 and 10, children can get their special word of wisdom. And the way to do that would be to contact the local TM teacher and organize that. We'll maybe take one or two questions. I don't want to keep you for too long. Miss Deepa. Deepa Ji is at our wonderful Maharishi Center for Educational Excellence in Bhopal, our beautiful facility here. And she asks, to experience more happiness and rest, can we practice TM for more than 20 minutes or more than 2 times a day? Again, a very practical question. Now, for adults, for people who are over 20 years of age, you can practice TM anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. So Maharishi does give us that range of time. And again, this is for people above the age of 20. You can practice TM for anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. If on a particular day your meditation is very charming and you have time available and you would like to go for 30 minutes, that is completely fine. And then the second part of the question, can we do it more than 2 times a day? There are a few instances when we can meditate more than twice a day. One time is if you're not feeling well. If you're not feeling well, the doctor always will advise, take rest. So if you are not feeling well, you can meditate as much as it's comfortable, 3, 4, 5 times during the day. And that extra rest will help us to recover more quickly. Another time that you can meditate more often, and this would apply to both our students and to our faculty and staff, is that maybe you have an exam that you're preparing for, or maybe you have a report that you have to write. Just before the exam, maybe you could meditate for 5 minutes to make the mind very orderly so that your thinking is more clear during the exam. And, or maybe you have a presentation that you have to make. So just before the presentation, if we meditated for 5 or 10 minutes, again, it would make the mind very peaceful and orderly. We would be able to speak more clearly. So those are a couple of times when you could meditate extra. One other time is that if it ever happens during the middle of the day, something very unusual, something very stressful happens. If you could find a place where you could meditate for 5 or 10 minutes and reestablish that inner silence, that inner orderliness, then it would allow us to handle that problem more easily. Again, our normal time of meditation is sometime in the morning before the day's activity, sometime in the evening at the end of the day's activity before our evening's activity. But there are a few instances when we can meditate more often. At the same time, I want to say is that we're not using TM as a crutch. You know, every time somebody says boo to us, we don't run and meditate. But during those few special circumstances, we can meditate an extra time. I'll take one more question. This is from Niraj, a student in the 12th standard at MVM Ratanpur, Bhopal. And he's asking, why has pranayama been described before practicing TM? And this is a very good question. I thank you for bringing this up, Niraj. Both pranayama And Maharishi's simple asanas are a great addition to our practice of TM. What the yoga asanas do, and I'm talking about the yoga asanas that Maharishi recommends, very simple yoga asanas. And Maharishi gives a very simple piece of advice about yoga asanas. He says, stretch, but don't strain. If we strain during the yoga asana, we'll defeat the purpose. Asana means easy, asan. So when we're doing Maharishi's yoga asana, we do them very easily. We can stretch, but we don't strain. What the yoga asanas do is they create more flexibility in various aspects of the physiology. And then at the end of the yoga asana, Maharishi's yoga asana, the last thing we do is the sarva asana, where we just lie down still for a couple of minutes. And then after that, we can do some pranayama. And about the pranayama, what Maharishi advises us, deeper, but not deepest. Again, no strain. So deeper, but not deepest. We're not trying to inhale to a point where we feel we're going to burst, and we're not trying to exhale to a point where we have no air. Deeper, but not deepest. What the pranayama does is after the asana, it creates a homogenizing effect in the physiology. It softens, it smoothens out the physiology. And by doing the pranayama in out very easily, it helps the mind to begin to quieten down. And then after that, in that more settled state of mind, when we start the meditation, very effortlessly and naturally, the mind goes in that inward direction. So that's why pranayama is a good part, a good addition to our practice of TM. So I think I will stop with the questions now. And if there are more questions, you can send them to Yatish Ji, and he'll forward them to me along with a way that I can get in touch with you, or I can send the answers back to you, and we'll do that. I've already extended my time 15 minutes more than I should have. Girish Ji, do you have something you would like to add to your students and faculty and staff?
I think you have covered everything, Dr. Lenji, beautifully and clarified everything. And the main thing is, as you emphasized also, morning and evening regularly. I think that is the key for all the benefits, for all the beautiful results you have explained. So my suggestion, my request rather to everyone listening is be regular, morning and evening, 20 minutes. And as you said, if some time, people have time, practitioners have time, and they want to enjoy more, extend it to 30 minutes. That should be the key. And you also mentioned if it is done in group, if the whole family is meditator, then practice together on fixed time. That will give multiple effect, multiple benefit. That's what I want to say. Thank you very much, Benji, for finding 1.5 hours more and these beautiful points.
And I also wanted to thank Sri Kare and Yatish Ji for all of the efforts that they put in to organize today's webinar. And always our thanks go to our dear Vice Chancellor Bhuvanesh Ji. And all of us always are rooting for the perfect health and happiness of our dear chairman, that he should have many decades more of very accomplished life so that he can make Maharishi's message available to more and more people around the world. I wanted to mention, Girishji, I have, again, we're already well over the time. I have an 8-minute video of Maharishi on speech and persuasiveness. We can leave it for another time. Otherwise, if you would like them to hear it, I could put it on.
I think you can play it. Last time we didn't see the video, we only heard the voice.
Okay, yeah.
If it could be played properly, it will be good.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a beautiful video. We play this to the executives, many executives around India. As Bhuvanesh Ji mentioned, more than 200 of the leading companies in India, companies like Reliance and Hero and ICICI, the best companies in India, they are making use of Maharishi's meditation as a means to improve the health, the well-being, and the productivity of their employees, of their senior management. And I've had the pleasure, under Girishji's guidance, to bring this knowledge to them. And this is one of the tapes that we play for them as follow-up. An executive is going to ask Maharishi a question about what is it that makes somebody an effective speaker? Why is it that some people are able to project their thought, project their speech in a much better manner than other people? And Maharishi gives a beautiful answer, and this is another reason why we all want to be practicing TM. So I'll put this on.
Maharishi Corporate Development International. Building high performance people. Speech and persuasiveness. Maharishi.
Maharishi, I don't know if this has been covered.
Is the sound audible on your end, Girishji?
Yeah, sound is coming, but not.
Okay, very good, very good.
Not the picture.
The qualities
Oh, the picture is not
that
available.
are useful to an executive or a manager. But one stands out in my mind because the life of an executive is taken up most of the day with conferences. He sits with people, he gets inputs, he makes decisions, he talks to them. Now, in order to impress his opinion and his judgment,
Yes, picture is there.
he must not only think orderly, but he must have a superb quality of communicating his thought accurately.
Alert intelligence,
Alert intelligence.
brilliance.
He must be vocal, vociferous. On the other hand, he must also be a persuasive speaker because he is the manager. And he has to be able to motivate his people. He has to be able to say, yes, this is what we're going to do.
And persuasive speech has its basis in clear thinking, orderly thinking. If the man is able to put his thoughts in order and his thinking is clear, immediately his speech will be very effective in the midst of intelligent people. So orderly and persuasion is on the basis of how much values an expression can present. How many values an expression contains. On that is the attractiveness of the expression in the family of intelligent people. Otherwise, a man could start talking and he doesn't project any concrete openness in his suggestions, the people will feel bored. And the projection of many valuable items in one expression belongs to that ability of wide comprehension. We are talking a little before, computing the thought to contain maximum value. And that comes in the orderly mind through practice of transcendental meditation is increasing. You are saying something, sir? Continue.
This ability to be persuasive is one of the main abilities of a salesman. And this is why so many top executives come from the field of sales, because they have not only this ability to convince somebody, but there's something that is even a little bit intangible. Nowadays it's called charisma, something that comes across from this person that is not seen, that is felt. It's something subtle, something not on the surface. And yet it stands out. One could look into a room of top-level executives and one could say, yes, he is the top of these people. Could this be explained in some way?
Of course, yes. With the science of creative intelligence explains every phenomenon, and because it's capable of connecting every phenomenon to the base of all phenomena, and through that field of creativity from where all phenomenon emerge. When the brain begins to function in an orderly manner, and when that orderly thinking becomes a stabilized feature of one's awareness, any thought that comes is orderly. And what appeals to the intelligent people is something that is orderly. Orderly means it indicates a very right direction. It indicates clarity of the path. It indicates that there will be no resistance on the way. And if such an item spoken out in simple expressions, because of spontaneity of such a computing in the thinking of the person, then it will be very, very effective. It will be very, very effective. Because in the field, in the company of, in the family of business executives, everyone is alert, smart, intelligent, very comprehensive. And when he sees something valuable coming, immediately they pick it up. It's the quality of an executive mind to not let the opportunity pass by. He is opportune. Immediately opportunity makes use of it, derives maximum benefit in his own fields. So this alertness, we have seen in this in our scientific experiments, the time of reaction becomes less. One reacts faster because of the great coordination of all the different elements in the brain. And the brain activity becomes coordinated. It becomes very comprehensive. It becomes very synchronized. So all the elements that are necessary to promote thought, project thought in action and speech, they are all there involved in the process. That's how science of creative intelligence makes the speech of the executive very, what you call, persuasive. We would call effective. Persuasion has a meaning in some kind of laboring to convince, like that. So it's not persuasion. If the speech comes out graphically presenting the picture of possibility, one doesn't have to persuade, because to someone who we are talking, his own interests are very lively, naturally. Everyone knows what one wants. And therefore, if we can show him that this is a thing which will satisfy your wants, immediately the man will pick up. So persuasion is not necessary. What is necessary is graphic representation in a very simple, natural way of all those elements which are necessary.
So you're saying then that persuasiveness is not so much in the voice or the emotion of the speaker, but in the content, in the intelligence of
That's
what he
right.
says.
It's beautiful. In the content of what one projects, in that self-computed, comprehensive value which is useful. That is appealing.
I thank all of our faculty and our dear students and our staff who make all of our Maharishi Vidya Mandirs successful. And as our dear chairman said, very, very, very regular with your practice of TM. And that's the solution to all problems. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev, I don't know whether the time permits or not, because I had to conclude, but I would just like to conclude by saying thanks to the chairman, Brahmachari Girishji, who has really guided us to organize this, and to Vijay Karatna Khareji and all those, and a special thanks to our learned, enlightened speaker, Dr. Lane Weger. I would just like to add that all our students, teachers, and principal and staff, they are all contributing in a big way in these pandemic times. And how they are contributing? When they are meditating, actually, their awareness is reaching to that transcendental level, the pure awareness. It is just like, I would like to give an example, that if you have access to the internet, then whatever you do, you can just project it everywhere. So similarly, if you have access to this unified field, the pure transcendental consciousness, so just by enlivening that field, you are creating harmony in the whole society. From that subtlest, the most finest level, without doing much. So this is such a great contribution by our students and teachers and all parents who are meditating, that without doing much, on one hand, they are resting, they are evolving their own consciousness. But on the other hand, they are really bringing more harmony in the collective consciousness. And that is a great contribution. And I can say, we cannot see how the tree is nourished through the, we can say, different fertilizers. But we don't see the fertilizers acting, but we see the fruits are good. So similarly, when the collective consciousness is more harmonious, these pandemics, they will go away. I would just like to say that we are very fortunate in these times that we have this Maharishi's knowledge. Every time the individual and society deviates or violates from the acting in accordance with the laws of nature, such problems come. Today, this is one. Another problem may come or another may come. What we can do? We can just align ourselves to the source of all the laws of nature, so that by just regular practice of TM, we are acting spontaneously. This is very important word. We are spontaneously acting in accordance with the laws of nature. So we are very fortunate once again to be a part of this Maharishi's organization, having this Maharishi's knowledge. And one more thing I would like to add is, which very rightly Dr. Lane Wegerji has said, that we have TM teachers, and actually it was very nice that he has gone through the first day of checking and part of the second day of checking. But what I would like to is that we should have refresh all the 7 steps, because they should know, even though they know that TM is beneficial, but how TM is beneficial, they should really know all the scientific researches on transcendental meditation. Then they should also go through the 7 steps again, at least in 6 months, in 1 year, every time, so that they are really aware of this precious knowledge, and they can be proud, and they will spread this to others also. What they can do is, they can, in whatever community they are, they should become like a, we can say, a pole of light to enlighten the society wherever they are. So, and then others will also know. There was a question, what we can do besides doing TM, how we can improve our TM. we can improve our transcendental meditation. We should not try to improve when we are meditating. But what we can do is, we can also do our yogasanas as Maharishi yogasanas, and we should also do Sukh Pranayam, simple Pranayam. And then whatever our daily activity, the daily routine is, if that is Vedic routine, then we also can, we can say, have deeper and better experiences through our TM. So it is always a joy actually to discuss about TM. It is just like singing the glory of the Lord or the God. So it is a great joy for all of us. And thank you, all those who have joined. Thank you very much. Jai Gurudev, Jai Maharishi.